Oh.
I
It's all
don't
the
even
things.
know.
It's all the things.
Noneya.
What's
Oh,
Noneya?
Noneya.
You'll hear.
Noneya?
You'll hear.
I got a little debrief.
She got. I Noneya'd her a little bit the other day.
Yes, she did.
Noneya.
Mhm.
She Noneya me. I like, don't say anything else.
I'm not
until
saying
we're
anything else.
I don't
recording.
even know what Noneya means. Are we recording?
No, I'm gonna teach you.
I'm recording now. And
We're
back.
All right, Noneya.
Noneya business.
It's exactly right. So
Oh, really?
today,
Is that
yes,
what it means?
Noneya.
Oh, nice.
So our
I got a
word.
point.
I know you get a point. So today, I'm gonna keep going into vulnerability, but we're gonna
Forever and always.
forever and always.
Yeah.
This one I'm gonna start with was the hardest for me. I'm gonna just confess this is, and I also want to just say like, I'm preaching to myself. I hope that that's evident. Like I was listening to me and I was like, wow, I really sound like I got vulnerability down.
I was
She
listening to
doesn't.
me.
I was like, you're a freaking hot mess, Miss Small. So
Actually, I just love that. I want to sit in that for just a minute. Today I was listening to me, and
you know, we
I was
listen.
like, what a good teacher I am.
yeah.
Well, no, I was like, you sound like you know what you're talking about.
Me too.
So,
yes, I know.
Anyway,
When you lead, you do very well, and you
thanks,
do.
'cause I'm preaching to myself. So I'm going to tell you a little story.
Ooh.
Story time with Amber.
I love story time with Amber.
Okay, and where this is going to cut, it'll get there, I promise. But back in the day, I used to teach at Job Corps, which is a government-run institution
I'm not
for
really good at
kids. Yes, for kids who have aged out of foster care, delinquents. They can choose between going to juvie or to Job Corps, and kids. Yep. And then just ragtag kids that are trying to learn a trade. And what it is, it's for 16 to 25, I think, year olds. They can live, it has a dorm, and you learn a trade and you get an education. And I was there as a tutor, so I taught kids to read because I'm a preschool teacher and kindergarten teacher. I taught kids who were illiterate how to read, help them practice to get their GED. I was a GED tutor, but I was also worked in the trades, teaching them about social skills, EQ stuff. I worked a lot with the CNAs about helping them interact with patients, things like that.
You were. I remember you being in your gift mix.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So here's the thing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the BS meter because it will come around, I promise. So
BSometer.
yes, as we all know, I grew up really, I felt kindred spirited. I think that's why I was in my gift mix. I related to these
With the kids from Job
kids
Corps.
so much because, but by the grace of God, literally, and the Dickinson family, I probably would have ended up at a place like Job Corps. Okay. And so there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of trauma there's a lot of things. And I had an ability, much to the administration's annoyance, to handle crisis really well and different than most people. There was a lot of like, we're better than these poor kids. We're out to save these kids. And that disgusted me. I just thought these were kids who needed to succeed and I was going to help them. I wasn't better than them.
Well, you actually cared about them.
And I really loved them. Yeah. And so there would be fights in the halls or things happening in the halls. And I, 5'2", and I hadn't been 40 yet, so I was still in my 120s phase, not my 130s, 40s phase of life, and would go and I would walk straight into the middle of it. And the head of security would always be terrified for me, and I was always like, no. Or we would have really hard conversations about sexuality or drugs or alcohol in my classrooms, and the kids would get really amped up and frustrated, and security would hear it and start coming, and other teachers would say, stop, she's got this. And it always drove people crazy. And what it was vulnerability. These kids felt safe to be vulnerable with me because I was vulnerable with them. They knew that I wasn't shaming them, that I wasn't belittling them, and that I was willing to hear them and match their vulnerability. And so, and they called me Miss Smalls with a Z because I was gangsta. So Miss Smalls is going to talk a little bit about vulnerability in parenting.
Oof.
Ooh, so everyone breathe that in.
Breathe
And
that
we're going to talk a little bit
I do
about
feel a little bit stressed.
a little
in. Ooh, stressed.
I feel
With
stressed.
with Z because you're gangsta. We're going to talk a little bit about when they're littles, but a lot as they're growing up. So
Doesn't require a whole lot of vulnerability when they're little.
it doesn't. And that's the great thing. So when they're little, and I do take a lot from my sister from another Mr. Brene Brown. She said your home in the beginning should be about compliance and then grow to commitment. So when your family has values, like I want to start with that. Every family has values. Every family's values look different. Your mission statement of your family might be different depending on where you are or who you are. And those values are good if your family is all on the same team, right? And so when they're little, she's like, Brene Brown was like, I am a dictator. Amber Small is also a dictator in her home. It is not a democracy. In the beginning, it's about compliance. I said
But
so.
obedience.
It's and you have to do what I say because I am your mom, and that's okay. And then there is a turn as they grow from compliance to commitment. You want them on your team and in your family. Does that make sense? The difference between compliance and commitment. And
Is that the term she uses?
yeah, compliance to commitment. And
I've heard coaching, compliance to coaching.
yeah. So I think when you're right, when they're little, it's different, but I do think you set the standards there.
Sure.
So the biggest thing that I've been learning about vulnerability and parenting, I've been doing this research, is that it doesn't have a lot to do with your kids. Shocker. It has a lot to do with you. And so allowing our children to struggle, to wander, to question, and to seek. And that automatically, like, I literally just said that on the airways and I can feel the tightness in my chest already. Like, that is a really scary thing to allow your children to struggle. But I remember we talked about in my last vulnerability that children are born for adversity, and our job is to teach them how to handle adversity, not to take the adversity away. And so that is like the big part about parenting in vulnerability. So the best way to allow them to struggle, to wander, to question, and to seek is to show them your struggle and show them how you struggle, how you wander, how you question, and how you seek. And that vulnerability is where they will be able to find compliance and commitment in that, right? So like if you're always just do it and never when you're wrong say, I totally blew that, will you forgive me? You're just a dictator. They're not going to want to commit to that team, and they might comply, but they might just obey so they don't get a spanking or they don't get a timeout or they don't lose their phone. They don't understand, right?
100%. Yeah.
So we need to show them our mess, our fears, our questions, and let them know in doing that you are creating a soft place for them to land.
I think saying I'm sorry is like one of the biggest pieces of that, because it's a humbling thing to do, and it does show them that it's so powerful, because like you're willing to be vulnerable, you're willing to be humble, you're willing to be wrong.
Yep.
To admit you were wrong.
You're willing to admit that you made a mistake, and you're showing them how to feel remorse for all of it. So I'm sorry that I hurt you that way. I'm sorry that the thing I have to apologize the most for, and I just had to the other day, was I'm so sorry I kind of jumped on you and got spicy, like snapped. I'm sorry that I snapped at you for that. It was at my oldest son for something. I think it was actually, I don't think he'll mind me saying this, it was like he was on his phone for a lot, and I was just like, I kind of lost it as far as like, I need you to get off your phone. It's really hard for me. And the way that I did it was not kind or loving. It was true, but it wasn't executed well. And ironically, I texted him later because that just works for us. But I was texting him how I didn't want him on his phone so much. So the irony, but the being able to say, I'm sorry is a very powerful
It's, I think, the
equalizer.
most powerful thing we can
And
do.
I think to model it, I don't know about you guys, but we have some kids that their ability to say sorry comes far more naturally than others.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like just to like it's easier. I think it's easier for some personalities to apologize than for others.
I have some, yes. Mine, oh, yes. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I thought was really great about what she said is she said, as parents, we have veto cards. And those are powerful and they are useful. But to use them sparingly, say yes when you can, explain your no's, always explain your no's, and let your kids know when you're using a veto. But if you use your veto all the time, it loses its power. And I really loved that, and this is all from Brene, but this part is from Brene, but I think that I'm a natural knower. I say no, like I always go to no, and it's my own trauma.
It's
It's always
interesting.
I
am a yeser
Yes.
until I say yes too many times, and I'm like, wait, this is not okay.
Right.
I shouldn't have said yes to this.
Right.
At all.
so.
Yeah.
But explaining your no's, okay. So, but I think the biggest part is that Peter and I have a new code word, and it's Noneya.
Noneya.
Like
Noneya.
it. Noneya.
How are you spelling that? Just
I don't know.
Noneya. Noneya.
Sure. I don't spell words. I just
it's
say
short
them.
for
N-U-N?
Well, if it's none of your business,
Oh,
yeah.
NONE, it would be
Right.
none.
So,
YA.
N-O-N-E.
E. That's none. YA.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Well,
don't care.
this is going to be the title, so
Oh,
I need to...
Noneya.
I need to
So
Noneya.
there's
Mind
this
your
point,
business.
and okay, and I'm gonna go. It was so funny how God works, because it
Did he
literally.
give you an illustration in real time?
No, he gave me a verse.
Oh,
It was
okay.
so.
Well, what we were talking about the other day, because that... I think that was,
part of
my
it, yeah.
son.
Yeah, we don't want to. Okay, so I'm not gonna go do any illustrations because this is I want to protect my children's vulnerability, but I think with our kids we have a deep, more than kids in marriage, but I think kids more feel this deep sense of protectiveness of how they walk through the world and what it reflects on us as parents. There's something very tricky about parenting where if your kid steps in it, if your kid does this, it makes us anxious as parents because it kind of reflects on us. And there's this place in which we have to remember our goal is creating autonomous children. We do not want basement dwellers.
Autonomous adults.
And
Yeah,
well, and as children too, like because not all of our listeners have big kids, but like I work with preschoolers. Okay, here's a great example. I work with preschoolers. I have had parents text me from their car. The boy that just walked out of your classroom, he said a mean word to my daughter. What are you going to do about that?
Oh yeah.
We're going to breathe about that because your daughter also called him a poopy face. You know, like, and like, and then the shame that hit. Oh my gosh. I'm so embarrassed. Okay, well, I'm going to talk to her about words. No, you're not. She's 4. Learning about calling people poopy face and the natural consequences of calling people poopy face is part of preschool. Like, everybody needs to breathe. You're not the worst parent in the world because your daughter called someone poopy face. That mom walking out with her little boy is not the worst parent in the world because her child called poopy face. Like, there's this deep seated, oh my gosh. So like, there's something about that. And so we need our children to be autonomous. They need to know, guess what, buddy? When you called that little girl poopy face, you really hurt her feelings. What do you think is going to happen if you keep hurting children's feelings? No one's going to play with you. Like, learning to have those conversations.
Right.
What could we say? Like, and not, you can sit and observe at open plays and at parks, this weird thing of like moms hovering over their children and being angry.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Rachel Anderson,
so
being
just
angry at other children
step off.
for
Right.
hurting their children, and like forgetting, like, and then all of a sudden yelling at that parent, your kid. This is developmentally normal, and there needs to be, like, our kids need to be autonomous. They need to fail. They need to hit other children. They need to feel the consequences of that. They need to, but they're also, like, there's a difference between a 2-year-old, a 6-year-old,
right.
a 10-year-old, and a 15-year-old, and hitting a child. Like,
Right.
some of it's spatial awareness. Some of it is
That
impulse
actually happened
control.
to my son once in a park, and I went mama bear and all the things where it was like someone hit my kid, a kid he didn't know, and so now I'm like, I didn't, and the feeling was I didn't want him to experience that,
Right.
and because he just did, now I'm gonna take my mama bear claws and rip the mom's face off.
Oh.
And
I was the mom that if ever our kids were fighting, automatically I was like, what did you do to my kid? I automatically assumed, like, what did you do? Like,
Right.
what part of we were like total opposites. You would be like, what did your kid do? And I'd be like, what'd you do, buddy?
Yeah. And I also wanted that mom to be like, I just want you to know that your kid is the worst kid.
Yeah,
Ever.
which is
And
cruel.
It's cruel.
You
I
want
love
her
you.
to say that to you?
She
No,
wanted
I
to
wanted
say that,
that
Oh,
mother
yeah.
to know that
how
she's
bad.
a horrible mom,
Yeah.
and her child's the worst kid.
I didn't know,
That's
not
so
the
funny.
horrible mom, but I wanted her to know how bad her kid was. That he
That's so
just came up
funny.
and shoved and pushed my poor little innocent boy down.
My perfect child.
My perfect little angel down on the
Oh,
thing.
I love you so much.
I
See, when I
know.
lived
I'm
with
at, this is vulnerability,
The vulnerability,
people.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
No,
telling you, I
That's good.
was that mother.
Yeah.
Not with my number 2, only with number 1.
Praise
That's
Jesus.
so funny.
Because you
That's
don't have
called
time.
sanctification.
I think part of it is
Well,
also
and your number 2 is more spicy than your number 1 too.
so spicy.
So sometimes your number 2
So-
probably did what your number 1 had done to him.
Oh,
Right?
Yeah.
for sure. Or he could hold his own.
He could hold his own. Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas my number 1 never even got a chance to hold his own because
Yeah.
I was right there.
Yeah.
Yes, you.
Jesse bopped him on the head when they were 2, and Rachel didn't let them play together for a solid year.
Well, he bopped him like 50 times.
Okay.
With a little toy.
It's okay.
You see.
We're not going to rehash the past. We're going to move forward in the present. So here's the thing.
And so I no,
There-
in true, I was like, I did all the things wrong.
Right.
I really did.
You
Because
did
here's
not,
the-
you did not.
You did not.
No.
But
No,
here's the
I did
thing.
a lot of them.
It's
We all
okay.
do.
But our children need to be autonomous. They need to learn to fail. They need to learn how to fear. They need to be scared. And you need to show them that. And how you show them that is you show them you're afraid. When I lost Emma once in the store, I could have yelled and spanked at her, but instead I cried. And I was like, I was so scared, Emma. I was so scared I was going to lose you, or someone was going to take you from me and I wouldn't be able to find you. Emma, who we all know, Mustang Sally, she is still the freest spirit of all. Very rarely ran for me again. She saw my vulnerability. I wasn't guilting her. I wasn't shaming her. I was sharing my, like, oh gosh, you please, can you not do that? Like, that scared me. And then when Emma was afraid, she felt safe to come to tell me her fears, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was this exchange of value in each other's vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so I think, and that's the hardest part about parenting. And that's the part that I really, really struggle with personally, is that allowing my children to make the choices that they have to make to live the story that the Lord has for them. And when you look through all of Scripture, I mean, I should just put in my husband's sermon on the mess, which was beautiful. He did an awesome sermon about our mess. When you look at David, when you look at Joseph, people live incredibly disgusting and messy lives. And that is the beauty. That is how God's beauty is shown through. He redeems our messy lives. He takes our mess and makes our manure piles into beautiful flower gardens. That is what he does. And so if we put boundaries and put our children and our parenting into this idol box where there's no vulnerability, there's no room for mistake, they're going to live a perfect life. They're never going to get heartbroken. They're never going to cry. They're never going to do anything wrong. They're never going to sip a drink. They're never going to puff on a bong or however you puff a bong or smoke a joint, or they're never gonna, you know.
I don't know.
I don't know. That one I don't know.
That's
or
what they call it on the streets.
The first time they ever kiss is on their wedding
Street
day,
cred.
or any of those things. If we put
Yeah.
that pressure on our children,
Yeah.
we nullify their story. And it's their story. It's not our story. It's none your business on how the Lord is going to shape and make your children. It's none your business.
I'm finding that out in real time.
So one of the parts
I
that,
agree.
and Peter and I struggle with it.
hard.
Our job is that does not mean we don't minimize our values. It does not mean that we are free for all. It's none of those things. You need to know your family values. Your children need to know your values. But you need to be a safe enough space for them. When they step in it, they come to you, and then you can show that they are not only loved, but lovable, even dirty and messy.
Mhm.
And that's because we're all dirty and messy, and we're all sanctified by the same God, and we all need to be made clean by the blood of the Lamb and nobody else.
Mhm.
So, super duper hard. It's super duper hard. And I think
But
for
it's
me,
easier said than done.
the super duper hardest part for me is not in my sweet family unit. Like when we're alone in our little safe space of the smalls, it's great. I have the hardest time of other people looking at me, and that's my own pride and shame. As you know, like I have 4 children. Some of them are choosing some things and some of them are choosing other things, and I have told myself the narrative, and have heard from others, but their opinion doesn't need to matter, that because not all my children are choosing to walk the same life that I'm walking, that my advice is not meaningful. And I feel like that's none your business. Like it's none my business of how my kids, we say none yet with it's tongue in cheek. I hope that you get it. Like, of course.
I just think it needs some explanation because
so,
it's like as the years go by, I think it becomes less and less, like more none your business. But there's these years that we're in right now where it's like, well, I still get to make the final call on that.
But the none your business. So I gave the none your business talk to one of my dear friends whose daughter's a tween, and she was like freaking out. Now she wants to homeschool because she was just so stressed out. She's like, I don't know what they're talking about in the locker room when they're getting ready. I don't know what are they doing? What are they saying? How is my daughter responding if this girl started dating? What if my daughter wants to start dating because this girl? And I was like, it's none of your business what happens in the locker room. What happens in your home, and you giving her the skill set is okay, but it's none your business.
For a tween though?
Yeah, like she doesn't need to say when her daughter gets home, she shouldn't, I don't think it's any of our business to be like, so what did Sarah say about her boyfriend? What are her and her boyfriend doing? Are you thinking about doing those things? What you can say is, hey, how was your day? Did you feel, like, hey, I saw that these kids are dating. How does that land on you? How do you feel about that?
I think it's tricky though because a lot has gone down in our just to stay on that particular example. So much has gone down in the last 3 or 4 years in our culture that a lot of people are choosing because things are so bad in the locker rooms or in the bathrooms or so weird, or there's so much cultural relevancy that it's making everyone who doesn't want to be a part of that so uncomfortable.
Right.
And that is helpful feedback for a parent, and they should maybe make a different decision.
Oh, no. I'm not talking there's a boy changing in a girl's room because he says he's a girl. Like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about all I can think of is that scene of Mean Girls when they're all in the room and the mom comes in and she's the cool mom and she's like, hey, you guys want some mocktails? How you doing? Like, I'm not you. Like,
yeah.
Like, there's a difference between giving your kids the skill set and being your kid's friend. Your kids got to figure out how to be a friend. And guess what? Your kid's probably at some point going to have their feelings hurt.
Yeah.
And it's not your job to go hunt down that parent and be like the playground of your friend just said. Now, if you see something consistent and it's your friends with that mom, you might be able to say, hey, I'm noticing some things. Is anything going on that I need to know about? But my job is to teach my children, in our family, we're kind.
Right.
In our family, we're brave. In our family, we speak truth. We stick up for the little person. In our family, we don't use unkind words. And you know what? They might do that. They might go in and get on the bully's side and tease another kid. And that's not what I mean by it's none of your business. Like, I don't want it to be me that pricks my kid's heart that he broke a family value. I want it to be between him and the Lord. Like, if I'm up in my kid's grill about every single thing, how they do all those things, I become their conscience, not the Lord. And I think if we can change and be on our knees and pray for our children and let the Lord do that work, you know, like, there's an example of John Piper, and he had this child that was really, really driving him nuts about something.
One of his kids?
Yes, one of his own kids. And he was like, I could badger her, and I could badger her, or I could pray, because my badgering is not going to change her heart, but the Holy Spirit can change her heart.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to pray about that. But it's not praying into a void. You're praying with the prayer of, let me be a safe place for when this person's convicted, they come to you. Because if you've created a good enough nest, if you've created good enough family values and changed in the compliance stage, when it comes to the commitment stage, 9 out of 10 times, they are going to come to you. It might not be on your timetable, though. And that's the hard part, where that's the nunya, that's the rub. That's where it's none of your business.
Well, and when they're 15, 16, 17, 18, I think that the nunyas get bigger and bigger and more frequent.
That's the thing. As you both are talking back and forth, I'm like, a tween in the locker room, it is my business. Do you know what I mean? So
within reason. I mean, if she's getting dressed and another girl is making fun of another girl, or they're all talking about
I'm not saying to go to the other mom and stuff. I'm saying it's my business to, like, what I see the extremes of happening is, like, either moms so badly wanting to be their kid's friend, so they're just the yes mom, even if they feel like, I don't think that's actually really great for you right now, but I want to be your friend, that I want you to like me.
Right.
So I'm not gonna wear the more difficult and more painful hat of actually being your mom, because that's my job and that's how I answer to the Lord.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that extreme, but I do agree with, as they get older, more and more,
right,
you step more into the coaching role, and I agree with the veto card becoming like more practical and more whatever, more less and less. But there's still seasons of, actually, while you're under our roof, it is my job to parent you still. I'm not your friend yet. You're not my friend yet. And I mean, that's the ultimate goal. It's not what I'm saying, but like, there are difficult things all through while they're under our roof, where we may have to make hard calls that are not, they're painful, and it may still have to be a compliance thing.
Right.
Even at 15, 16,
and I guess
17.
I'm not explaining it well. So what I'm saying is that by the time they're tweens, if they're being allowed to be left alone in spaces with their peers, hopefully by that time you have created enough commitment to your family's values in the compliance stage that if something goes down in the locker room, they're going to come to you and talk to you about it.
It's like, raise up your child in the way that he should go, so that when he is old, he will not depart from
right
it.
And so, because like Peter said this to me once, and it struck me, like, there's nothing magical that happens when your child turns 18.
Right.
It's not like all of a sudden, like on their 18th birthday, they wake up and their frontal lobe is developed. So, and it's not that way when they turn 16 or 50. So like, what I'm talking about, like for this little girl, it was all her girlfriends were talking about something in the locker room, and it was stressing out my friend. It was nothing bad. It was just girls learning how to be little girls. And she was freaking out about it. And I said, it's none of your business what they talk about in the locker room. You don't need to be sitting in the locker room dictating. It's your job that when your daughter comes home and tells you about the locker room, you give her the skills of how to handle that. If something big comes up, and like I had another parent talking about how there's a person in the public school in her area that is transitioning, and now the boy's going to be allowed to change in the girl. And the daughter came and said, I am afraid this makes me feel uncomfortable. Heck yeah, you go in, because she doesn't have the skill set, or the parent. That is totally your business, because your daughter's come to you and said, this is happening, I don't feel comfortable or safe. Now that is your job to come in. If you hear but the difference is hearing it from your child and you helping them versus you diving in and being the be all for them, and so they don't even have to come to you. And how that happens is by you being vulnerable with them. You know, like me.
And you being the teacher.
Right. And
not
showing
letting somebody else teach your kids.
Right.
You know,
right.
So that is part of your business.
Which is,
like, raising
that's the compliance part. And that's being in the family values part. Like, we talked about sexuality a ton in my family. Because of my trauma and different things, like we used all the proper body parts, we used all the things, and because of that, my children are very comfortable talking about and sharing with us about things of that nature.
It's also helpful to have boys and girls.
And it's super helpful to have boys and girls because they like
just naturally.
Just naturally. I know. Sorry about
You're
that.
You're the girl. You gotta be the girl.
Oh, believe me, I am.
So like when you know, and so all of those things. But I have seen in other families where they never talk about it, and it's this like weird thing that's like, we'll talk about it on your wedding day or when you get engaged, and it's like
we're not even acknowledge that we all have private parts,
and and adults who are married have sex, and it should be fun and enjoyable, all of those things. Like
Jesse used to call it mating season because we're such a hunting family.
But like, you know what I mean?
Whatever tells the story.
However, a bucking rut. Okay. So
yeah.
But those things, because we talked about it so much. I talked about my period. I talked about having cramps. Peter would talk about his struggle when he was a teenager with pornography or lusting or things like that. When that happened, when these bumps in the road happened for our children, they had no fear coming to us. The funniest story is I remember Emma, I don't think you'd mind me telling the story, Emma, was like going to see her pediatrician. She was like maybe 12, and she was like, okay, 10, 12-ish. And she was like, okay, Emma, have you started your period? And Emma was like, no. And she goes, do you have any questions? And Emma looked at her straight in the face and completely serious. She goes, I know too much. And the pediatrician started laughing. Like, our kids, you know, and that's what I mean. But I want my kids, or I pray, or I preach to myself. Again, this is me preaching to myself. I want my kids to come to me. I want them to come to me, not me bantering to them.
Well, as you were talking, so one thing, and this has happened a bunch of times. It's been a hard year for both of my kids. And a bunch of times I've said this, I'm sorry, buddy, that must be really hard for you. And I think that's it, even though it's kind of Noneya, it's just more like, I'm not gonna go any deeper than this, because I can't. Like, this is a hurt that they sustained. It was not anyone's, like, it wasn't a direct shot.
Right.
It was like hurt that they sustained, and it's like, I'm not gonna try to pick it apart. I'm not gonna ask them, because they're boys, first of all, and I already know they're not gonna talk about it much unless they really want to, which is rare.
Right.
And or in very, very, you know, I find that if you take
a drive,
get a coffee, you know, maybe even doing a little bit of shopping, something that looks like I'm gonna care about you and and where you're happy right now, at the end of that, a lot of times there'll be some sort of almost off the cuff. It'll just start happening.
Mine
It'll
is
be like
tuck-in time at night.
you're laughing, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, I'm going through this really hard thing. And my best response nowadays, because I have now 2 teens, Henry's about to turn 13, but he is officially crossed over in all the ways. And I'm just like, okay, I have 2 teen boys. It's to say, I'm so sorry, buddy. Like, that must be really hard. Yep. And then if they say, like, what do you think I should do? I'll be like, sometimes I know, and sometimes I'm like, I actually don't know. Like, I don't, that might be something you can ask Daddy, because he's a boy. I'm not. So it's like, Mommy sees, I have the big feelings, but I have the big feelings as a girl, and it's really different.
It really is.
It's really, really different. And so it's,
but do you see how you're being vulnerable
by saying,
and then that makes them able to keep coming back? Because that,
and I do have the healthy respect of, any more than this is none of my business.
Yes.
It's none of my business what's going on, and what's really going on in your head when you go to sleep at night. What are you thinking about? Like, I'm not saying any of that. I'm not like, tell me everything I want to know. And does a part of me would love to know? Sure, but like, that's impossible. First of all, we all have secret identities that only the Lord knows.
Yep.
Only God knows. And that is only his right to know that about everyone, and even our children. And that is a hard place for a mom, especially one that's guilty of being a helicopter parent, as one that's guilty of being like, especially with my first, I was just insane and very protective. It's super hard to just, all of a sudden you're like, the stage that I'm in right now is God wanting me to let go.
Right. Yep. And I think when you start looking at children as autonomous beings, and you're helping them, even when they're little, even when they're throwing toys, even when you start helping them understand the consequences of their actions, instead of just sit or just, do the, and I parented the opposite of how I was parented. And so I will tell you, as when they were young, I got so much negative feedback, because my kids were sensory kids and they hated wearing shoes. And so unless it was necessary, I didn't make them wear shoes. It wasn't worth it. And it was hard enough to sit during church, or it was hard enough to, sit at the dinner table. And it was a definite rub, and guess what? All my children wear shoes now. They understand the social graces of when it's okay to wear shoes and when it's not okay to wear shoes. But like that
was when it should have been none of their business.
Right. And but it was also
trying to parent another mother is one of the cruelest things
it really is.
I think that anyone can do. Yeah. Because you just don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
You
right.
don't.
You don't know.
You don't know.
And so
it is none of your business unless you want to help.
Right.
If you want to be kind and
you want to
in a good way.
Right.
But
and I also think like I think especially as you get into tweens and teens, being tweens, slowly letting them start figuring out, slowly letting them come to you, slowly letting them wrestle. Like, we're not stupid. Parents aren't stupid. We can tell when our kids are off. Not pouncing on them every single time they seem off. That's the hard for me. When I see my children in pain, emotional, physical, my instinct is to just like maul them until I know what's going on. I help them process it. But I have some internal processors. And so learning to let your children, so that's why it's a code word. That's why it's a jokey code word. Like, when I can tell that one of my children's chewing on something, and Peter can see that I see, he'll literally say, Noneya. And that's all he'll say.
Yeah.
Because what he's saying is, they've got it, Amber. We've done our job. I feel like I've done a pretty okay job with my kids. They've got it, and they will come. And every single time the Lord has blessed me, every single time I've said Noneya to them, like I said, 9 out of 10, there might be something secret going on.
To yourself.
When I've said Noneya to myself, they've come to us. Maybe not in my timing, but they've always come to us and talked to us about stuff. When I've said Noneya, or Peter has said Noneya to me because I want to engage or say no or pull a veto card or whatever. And Peter has said, psst, they're 18 or they're 16 or they're 19 or they're 21. Breathe. Go to the Lord with this. And I have 9 out of 10 times they have shown,
when it gets hard enough, they will be like,
or not even that, or not even that. They've
Yeah.
shown me they can do it. And then guess what? Now I get to praise them and be like, I am so thankful you made this choice. I am so glad. But it's their choice, and it was my influence had nothing to do with it. And so they get to now have that of, I was in a really hard place and I was able to get out of it on my own because I am a capable, autonomous, mini adult, right?
Mini adults.
Yeah,
And
when
so-
I hear all of this, I hear the word, I love Noneya, and it's funny, but I hear let go.
Yes.
Let go. Like,
Right.
just give it a minute or give it a day or give it a week or whatever. And it's
Right.
so hard.
It's super duper hard.
Yeah, I mean, I see my son in the midst of a really deep relationship, and it's like I have a million things that I could say that I want to say, but instead of just, I feel like I just need to, when it comes to stuff like that, your heart is, it's so hard. The heart,
Breakups are hard.
that quote where it's like the heart wants what the heart wants. It was
Okay.
like, it's a tough thing to squelch your heart to do that and to slow it down.
That's why
or
we
to
use
put the
something
reins
funny.
in.
That's if I were to be like, let's go, I'd be like, I'll let you go. But like that's why for us, our family, Noneya, is that's a funny way of me to recalibrate.
Yeah.
That this situation,
Let it
this
ride.
situation is between what I'm telling myself is, you are not God. And God has this, and God loves my children more than me. God
And
loves
they
our
are
children.
not us.
And
That's
they are not
another
us.
huge
Yeah.
thing.
And they are not, and we need to, and there's been times like, I have 3 adult children now. I want to make the choices for them. I want to do that. I want to be like, because I want it to be easy. And then I remember that grit is what makes us strong. Like if everything was easy, there would be no joy. If everything is easy for you, there is no gratitude. If everything, like you become gross people. Think about, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't want gross people.
Yeah.
I want joyful people. I want loved people. I want lovable people. And so, Brene Brown has a parenting manifesto, which I thought was so beautiful. I read it. I kind of dechunked it, but I want to give her most of the credit. I did kind of like make it more like, I love numbers. So these are 7 points, just like it took God 7 days to make the world. So here we go. But here's the main thing. We are hardwired for belonging. Children, we all want to belong. We all want to belong. Children feel belonging by seeing they are wanted and needed and valued. And as parents, we can show them by showing them that through vulnerability. How do we feel? Like, Amy, so often I hear your words about when you say, when I see someone vulnerable, it makes me love them more. And I'm so proud of them, and it makes me love them more. And so if we want our children to be valued and loved and wanted, they deserve to let them be valued and loved. We need to show that to them. Like our fears, our wants, let them value, want, and love us. And that's the vulnerability, showing them your wounds, taking your walls down first, sharing your fears. And then as Christians, something that we have that is so different than non-Christians is that we do have belonging, value, and want in Christ. And so we are already set up way better than most. So here's some parenting manifestos. Number 1, so I'm going to speak for myself. I want my children to be loved and lovable. This is learned by words and actions. And so how I treat my children and how I treat myself. So if I want my girls to feel beautiful and wonderful and valuable about themselves and their bodies, I should not be walking around talking about disgusting pig I am. That is not reflecting. Like, if I want my children to be respectful and not take crap, I don't take crap from them. It's all about good boundaries. I'm going to show them how to be treated as a woman by how I allow other people to treat me. I'm going to show my boys what kind of woman they should be married by showing how me and their dad respect one another, how we fight, how we bicker, how we resolve, how we laugh with each other. Like, you have, it's that saying, do as I say, not as I do, or whatever. Is that the right way?
Do as I do, not as I say.
No.
Right?
No, but
no, do as I say, not as
I do. Like, you don't want to do that. Like, you don't want to say,
oh, if it's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a bad thing. Like,
okay.
If you want loved and lovable children, you need to show that to them, but you also need to show that to yourself. You need to practice self-care. You need to say, I have said, like, I have one with that, our personalities are very different. I'll say, I love you and myself too much to have this conversation.
That's good.
And because it's going to just cause a fight, you need to have that conversation with your dad. I love you and myself too much to have this debate. Because what I'm showing him is, I don't deserve to be belittled by your intelligence, or I don't deserve to be, I have a daughter who likes to chew on things and nag, and I'd say, no, I am unwilling to hear this. And that's showing self-respect for me.
Yeah.
And it's showing that I don't deserve to be treated this way by you. This is very helpful when you have teenagers. To honor your own boundaries.
Very helpful when you have teenagers.
No, thank you. I'm uninterested in this narrative. I'm not going to be treated this way by you. I'm not going to let you speak to me this way. You don't want to be spoken to this way. Walk away right now. We're taking a time out. Loved and lovable.
Oh, I've put myself in timeout a lot over the years.
But you also need to. I think it's really important. I think a lot of times, again, it goes back to that Job Corps thing, right? Those kids could say hard things to me because they knew I could take it, and they also knew that I would tell them to zip it. Like, there's a mutual respect. There's a respect that and then my children feel safe to say to somebody else in the locker room, oh, you cannot speak to me that way. That is not okay. I don't hear those words. But if they've never seen that happen to them and seen you model it. Number 2, they are worthy of love, belonging, joy, and compassion. And so how we show that is we embrace both their perfections and their imperfections. And so you have to embrace your perfections and imperfections. That's that being able to say you're sorry to your kids. I totally lost it on you. I allowed my anger to get involved, and I said hurtful things to you to hurt you. And that was like, I get deep when I apologize to my kids. I go all the way in. I lashed out at one of my kids the other day, and I was like, you know what? I wanted to hurt you because the words you were saying, I was getting so frustrated and I was getting so angry, and what you were saying was so hurtful, and the way you were speaking to me was so hurtful that I wanted to hurt you back. And that was wrong. And that was uncalled for. And you don't deserve to be treated like that. And then instantly he was like, and you don't either. But I owned it. Like, I didn't just say, sorry, I talked to you like that. No, I talked to you like that. I knew what I was doing. I'm 45 years old. I know what I'm doing when I am going for the jugular. I'm going for the jugular, and that's wrong, and that is a sin, and it's not okay. So 2, worthy of love, belonging, joy. 3, we as a family will show up, be seen, and honor each other's vulnerability. Period. That is part of my parenting manifesto. My number 3, I'm going to show up, I'm going to be seen, and I'm going to honor you, and I'm going to let you see me and honor me. We're going to honor each other's vulnerability. My daughter's 21 years old. She just did her first solemn race, and I couldn't be there because she didn't tell us until the last second. It killed me. It killed me that I was not there. But you know what we did? The whole family was watching the times because she was on a different mountain than us. And we were freaking out and we were cheering. And the next day, her father, who's a numbers guy, went in and looked at everyone's numbers and did all the calculations and calculated that she was the second person in the entire theme. And she was like, Dad, how did you even find that out? And he goes, because I love you and I want to praise you. Like, I want you to be seen that what you did was remarkable. Like, show up. You're really good at showing up, Rach.
Almost to a fault.
Number four, we share struggles. So number one, loved and lovable. 2, worthy of love, belonging, and joy. So we embrace each other's perfections and imperfections. 3, show up, be seen, and honor each other's vulnerability. Number 4, share struggles and strengths with compassion, but for ourselves and others. So we honor each other and we have compassion and we share both strengths and struggles. We can't be Instagram family where everything is gorgeous and beautiful and our eggs are always sunny side up and the yolks never crack and we are hot messes. We stink at some stuff. We're awesome at some stuff and we're going to embrace both of those things and we're going to share them with each other. And both parents and kids. And if you're a parent that loves to show your children where they can do better, I struggle with that. Like, you could have, then you best be able to say, you know what, I could have done this better. Like,
my boys love letting me know where I could do better.
Then they should also be able to receive that feedback as well.
I received. Now it's my turn.
Yeah. So number 5, makes me think of you, Amy. We practice joy. We pursue joy by practicing gratitude. So we are a family that pursues joy, and how we pursue joy is by practicing gratitude. So we look at things by being thankful. We always have a clear head on our shoulders about why this is joyful and why it can, Number 6, together we face joy, fear, and pain. Together we face joy, fear, and pain. Often parenting and partners, I do this with my husband, and I want to take away pain. But instead, I choose to learn to sit with my children and my husband and teach them how to feel it. Our instinct is to take it away, but I'm going to make a calculated choice. I've walked through two of my children going through breakups, and inside what I wanted to do was take it all away, and what I did instead is hold a human as they weep and let them weep and let them sit in it and eat a pint of ice cream with them and then work through it.
That's something I've learned from both of you guys, is to say to myself and to my kiddos, let's feel the feelings, the big feelings for a couple of days, and then we're going to get up and we're going to get back to living. We're going to get back up. We're going to get back out there. We're going to do all the things. But we'll sit in the feeling, in the hard stuff for a few days. And then you kind of do it anyway. It's whether or not you're going to allow yourself
the permission
to
not
give yourself
guilt.
the permission and not feel guilt about that, because it's human. We're all.
I heard that trauma, when it sits in our life, this really triggered me in a good way. It was a good trigger, because I hope that I've done this for my children. I'm going to write these out for my kids, and I'm going to give them to them as a gift of this is my promise to them, and ask them for forgiveness if they feel like I've failed in certain areas. Like, now that I have these adults, I'm going to make this for them. When trauma sits in your body, that is where disassociation and all that stuff comes from. It's because, and so the only way to remove trauma from ourselves, the only way is to allow it to do its job. It's just it has to go through you. You have to have that grief and sadness.
It's going to do it either way.
It's going to do it either
way.
Either way.
Give yourself permission to.
And so I want my children to never feel shame for feeling whatever they're feeling, and then finding and then releasing it. But if you don't let it go, what you do is just hide it into press it in the hearts,
and you'll get sick.
And you'll get number 7. I promise my children and my husband to live in love with my whole heart, and to dare greatly. So as a family, to live in love with our own hearts and dare greatly. So being willing to take risks for our children, my kids, I learned to ski for my children. I never thought I was going to ski. My kids kind of were, Parker, it was Parker. He was like, Mom, we are up there on this mountain and we're doing this. My children who are, Emma's a snowboard pro, for crying out loud. They do double X and they do the glades and they're doing the Mongols or the mongrels or the whatever they're doing. They're jumping, they're 180. Yeah. When I am on the mountain and they know I'm on the mountain, they find me, they go down the little bunny slope with me, and when they go down faster, they turn around and they clap and cheer for me as I come down.
I would like both of my boys to listen to this episode and to pay attention to what Auntie Bird just said.
Yes.
Because my boys see me on the mountain and they run away.
So do they laugh?
They don't laugh. They don't think it's funny at all.
It's not all day, but they know I've dared greatly to do this. Yeah. And so they're honoring
that way. I was like, Mom, it for the love. Like, just shut it down.
And so this is my promise to
make me a sandwich.
Yeah. So this is my promise. This is what I want. This is kind of like the anchor that I want for my children, my husband, and my 2%. I will not show you anything perfectly, but I will let you see me and always see me.
That's so good.
That is my promise. And knowing and seeing our children is a gift. So if you, again, it's that walls down. I'm going to let my children always see me. They have seen me curled up weeping. They've seen me go through therapy. I want them to see me so that they know that I am safe to be seen. Yeah. That they will come to me. And I want my children to always know that knowing and seeing them is a gift. I do not take it lightly. I do not think it's a given. It is a gift.
Yeah. I mean, you're in the season, it reminds me of my mother, who she's never left. She has 6 kids, and she talks to probably at least one of them, maybe 2, every single day. She prays for all of us vigilantly every day. But you're in the stage, because I see where it's like you're getting phone calls, and one of them's, Izzy called you once we were doing this, and she's crying, and you're getting calls from one of your children.
Yep.
At least, I think she broke something.
Once a day. And you know what that shows is that all of this was true.
Praise Jesus. To God be the glory. For reals.
So good.
That you did let go when you should have, that you nunnyed when you should have, and that you pressed in when you should have. And that you
so those are the 7 things. And I can, so some things are Noneya business. Children need to wrestle with things between themselves and God. Even when, I think you need to trust your intuition. This is not me parenting your parenting. This is trust your intuition. I have seen my littles. I remember one of my littles struggling with something, and I knew what it was, and I let it go. It was Noneya. And I let it go because I knew he was on the cusp of figuring it out. Yeah. And I wanted him to have the bravery and the pride, good P, not little p, not capital P, that he was capable of figuring this out on their own. When you see your kids struggling with a puzzle and you just want to flip the puzzle piece, that's Noneya business. Let them figure it out. It's Noneya because you doing that puzzle for them is giving them no autonomy, but them doing it, they are so excited and it gives them the confidence.
I'm actually surprised that my kids are as smart as they are and that they're as functional, because for a while there...
You need to create an environment where they will come to you to process, that not you have to process them. And then I was, and then I want to be really vulnerable that this is really scary. This is really scary for me. I have my older daughter that has chosen to live a lifestyle that is completely different than anything I would want for her, right? Like she lives in a van down by the river. It's just the running joke, she's not walking with the Lord. She's, that's not the path that she's on right now. And that's really hard for me. I have a son that's about to make a big choice in colleges, and I want to tell him what to do so badly, and I want to put him, and I want to do those things. And he just he went to Vermont with all his friends, and there was no adults there, but he's 18 and his friends are all 18, and I could have micromanaged the crap out of that, and it was very difficult for me. It was very difficult for me. And I had to...
Glad I'm not there yet.
And I had to continue to remind myself that that's Noneya business. That I can pray for them, I can love them, but them figuring out how they choose to do their life is between them and the Lord. And
well, we're still, you're just a few years, like you're where Caden is, my Caden, where my other kids, we're still in the coaching stage,
right?
Where it's like, you know, where
you let your kids go off with all their friends and you don't chaperone.
Right, that's true. But we still have boundaries. There's a curfew. We say over communicate with us. Like if this was the plan, we know plans change. So just over communicate.
Yes.
Like say actually we pivoted. We're gonna go here instead. That's fine.
No, that's to
I
me
want
that's
you
still
home at this.
Noneya.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
but
still Noneya.
It's not hands off Noneya.
No.
And we're in the stage still where it's like navigating relationships, even with like you're not full on Noneya with Sam and his girlfriend and Jesse with it's like we're guiding, we're coaching, we're reminding of values and scripture, but then it is still like, so this is what you're
not saying you can't date or you can't go to anything.
The bottom line, our kids they can do whatever they want and we would never know. But it's not full on Noneya.
No.
It's or even I really think this is a really bad idea, but it's not sin. It's like, I think it's a really bad idea if you do this, but and you can, and then they may choose that or they may choose, they may not, and then you don't say I told you so, but it's like,
and then they feel the pressure.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by Noneya.
That's why I personally have to internalize it as let go instead of Noneya, because I was like, I don't know if I agree with all of that.
Yeah, no,
absolute.
Well, in
form.
it's not absolute form, and
No,
I think
that's why
as
it's my
a coach, it's like, I'm coaching you on the sidelines. Your dad and I are coaching you on this. We're guiding you. We're directing you. And at any point in time, we can bench you and put in a sub. Do you know what I mean? And so that's still it's not full hands off. And there are certain areas where we're like, you know what? At 18, you can do what you want to. But right now at 14 and 16, you still can't in this arena.
Right.
Because before the Lord, we answer to the Lord for you. And we feel very convicted that this is how we're supposed to, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so it is even at 14, 15, 16, even 17 and 18, there are things when they still live under our roof. It's obedience. And that's we will always have authority that we have to submit to.
Yep. And so Parker's 18, but he lives at home. And so there was him going to Romont with his friends. There was communication that needed to happen. There was boundaries around it, and he knew there'd be huge consequences if he had to be home by 5 because we had a family dinner that evening. And guess what? He was home at 4:30. Now, what I mean by Noneya is I could have been looking at 360 every 10 seconds. I could have been like, have you left yet? And I almost texted. I was like, has he left? Has he left? And Peter was like, Noneya. He knows the parameters. He's got to be the man that he needs to be to get in the car and get home by 5.
Yeah.
If you're up his tush, telling him every 5 seconds, have you got gas? Do you have enough gas? Are you going to stop for lunch? What are you going to stop for lunch? Remember, if you do that when he arrives at 5, it's because of you. It's not because of him, and he gets nothing out of it. So that's what I mean by Noneya.
Once they pass the statute of limitations and you're worried about them because it's well, they could be dead in a ditch because we haven't heard of them. That's when you're like, it is my business. Where is my child?
And even Emma, if she goes to Canada, we're like, can you just be kind to us and give us proof of life? Or she lives in a van so I'm not saying Noneya means never. What I'm saying is there's parts of their processing that is none of our business, that we give them exactly what you said. We give them the coaching, we show them the guidelines, and then it's not sin, and then they have to make the choice, and it might be the wrong choice or the choice you wouldn't make, and then they have to sit in the pain of that choice, and we don't take that pain away. We sit with them through the pain. We don't say I told you so, but we also say we also don't take away the consequences. That's the Noneya. It's like we need to let our kids, like I said, even in the puzzles, like it's so easy for us to make it easy and to make it quick, or we telling them exactly what to do, or if you do it this way, I'll give you this, like rewarding, like bribery in some ways. But like those kinds of things, like you're not teaching them to trust you and to trust themselves. But if you give them good coaching, absolutely, I agree with you 100%, Amy. I think we just use different verbs and different, like, my kids know, like, Emma knows that if she and her boyfriend come to my house and they're going to sleep over, they're not sleeping in the same room. I don't care what they do anywhere else, because in my house there's a different way. And she knows that, and she doesn't even push it. Like, she wouldn't even push it. You know, like, we had a boy that's struggling, and he was living in our house, and I didn't even think to tell him he had to come to church with us. Guess what? On Sunday morning, he was coming to church with us.
Yeah.
Because we create a space where the kids know where that they're loved and that they're safe, but that there is still, you know, non-negotiables, like, and that there's conversation. And so, but it's really hard because, and if we as parents don't start practicing that now, there will be a day Caden's out of the house, and there will be a day that you know.
And ultimately, if he becomes this awesome societal person who, like, does wonderful things for the world, or if he becomes a bum, I can't take credit for either. You know,
right? And then it's him.
Yeah,
and it's
he answers.
And also, like, I want to be. I love that you guys say that. My kids call me all the time, and they do, and I love that. I love it, love it, love it. But I want there to be a legacy where my children, I am always a soft place for them to land.
Always.
Always a soft place for them to land, but not to dwell. To land. I am not raising basement dwellers. I am but when Emma is going through something, I want her to always come to me, because she knows that I will speak truth and love and grace and snuggle. And so this is what the Lord said to me, because it's hard. It's really hard. And I wish somebody had spoken this to me, like Peter did a little bit. Like, nothing magical happens when they turn 18 and they move out. Like, you should start practicing giving autonomy as much as you can now. Like, I remember, what did Wendy Smith, when she came on and she was saying, give more freedom. She was saying, like,
more freedom, more grace.
Yes, more freedom, more grace. She was like, I wish if I could go back. That's kind of like maybe that's your word, more freedom, more grace. That's my Noneya. I have to speak in small, half-truths, little fake words, half words, not half-truths, half words. But today I was reading in Proverbs, and 12:21 says, be assured an evil person will not go unpunished, but the offspring of the righteous will be delivered. And promises like that are really good for a box dweller like myself. I like boxes. I like people being in boxes. I'm a justice seeker. And so then I sat on that this morning, and I was praying about it, and praying over my children. But the offspring of the righteous will be delivered. And so then I reminded myself that in Romans 3:22, the righteous of God, we are righteous in God through faith in Jesus Christ for all who believe. So I am righteous because I have faith in God. My children are my offspring. And so I can pray that promise over my children, that God, that God will deliver the offspring of the righteous. And so I can say, in my anxiety, when my children are not making choices that I want, or I want to micromanage them, Lord, you've promised, it says right here in Proverbs, that the evil person will not go unpunished, but the offspring of the righteous will be delivered. I am righteous because of your son. You promised, so please deliver my children from this, and having that faith. So, Lord, deliver my children in faith in Jesus, as you promised, in faith, because I have faith in you. So,
it's really good.
Having vulnerability.
We ended with a song. Having vulnerability.
Yeah.
Me. All right. Your sister was calling me. Kevin was calling me.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Oh, Hannah. For rides. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We are podcasting people.
I know.
Don't you know?
Okay. And then, okay, there's that. Okay, fabulous. I'm really cool.
Sam got in his first car accident yesterday. A little
And
little
stop
bump.
that.
Oh, wait.
Or I'll stop that. I don't know how. Do I just press stop? Ow, my knee.
Just hit the record button. And
Okay.
stop.
Well, I just don't want. No.
But
You don't get our special stuff off camera.